Okay, so echo chamber, right? We've had many great people come on and conversate with us, but right now, people, whew, we are in the presence of a goddamn legend, right? We've got the great Michael Beach here, people. You know what I mean? Like, hey,
Appreciate it.
I remember watching Third Watch. I was gripped watching Watch, and Doc. I rode with Doc, man, but Doc infuriated me. There was certain times, you know what I mean? Like Doc is doing some crazy things, and you're just like, yo, talk to the girl, man. What are you doing? Like, what are you
I know
doing?
exactly what episode you're talking about. Talk to the girl, man. She's
Uh, hey, and I can't forget, we've also got the great Eugene Byrd here as well, gentlemen. And you know, Eugene, he's been in just as many great things. And I will say, yo, I didn't realize you were in Criss Cross. I remember watching
Wow.
Chris Goddamn Cross as a kid. I loved that
Wow.
show. And then I see you're motherfucking Criss Cross. I'm like,
Yeah, man.
yo, okay.
Wow. Wow. The fact you brought that up is impressive. That's impressive. Yeah, man. That was like 93, man. That was 93. That was 93.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was 93.
Ah.
Been
England.
around.
Nottingham.
Been around.
I've been around. I've been around. I've been around. I've been around.
So, yo, you are both in the, starring this film. Go try and pronounce it. Immanence in Immanence.
Immanence.
It's a tricky word.
It's Eminence.
See,
I know it's
like,
hard,
it
man,
sounds like
trust me,
it starts with an E, but it's written with an I. Like it confuses you. All right, so you're both in Immanence, right? Which...
Something like that, yeah.
I'm not mad at it though.
Right. We're just gonna let it go now. Say whatever you want.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. But that film, it's a crazy film, man. It's a crazy film. I loved it. Like, how the hell did you get involved with that?
Well, originally I got involved because my wife and our kids go to this dance school. And one of the parents, the father of another dancer, asked my wife, "Hey, listen, would you ask your husband if he'd read the script I have?" And I, she sent it to me. She got it for me. I read it, and I really loved the concept, the idea of religion and science and the battle. So I love that concept. So I said, listen, if you're up to doing some rewrites and and I will come on with you as long as our schedules work out, and I'll give a few friends a call, and Eugene was one of them, and here we are.
All right, but let me ask you this, right? When your wife came to you and was like, hey, someone at the dance today asked me if you could read a script. We're like, honestly, at first, were you just like, God damn it, just tell them no. Just tell them no. You're bothering me with this shit. What's going on?
It's funny because it happens a lot.
Yeah,
it happens a lot.
Yeah.
And you just never know. I do a lot of indie films and I do a lot of shorts, and it's usually I do it because it just keeps me connected to why I'm acting, and I'll read the first 10 pages, and if it doesn't hook me, then it's just a no. I'm not going to waste my time. But if it's something that that I go, oh, this is interesting, then I'll keep reading, and if things work out, then I'm open to it, and I think that's something I don't ever want to lose. It doesn't matter how much I do or how old I get. I love the idea of people striving to do something against all odds, and making indie films in this business is very tough. And now today, indie films are 1 million, 5 million. I mean, that's not an indie film. An indie film is very, very small. Under $500,000, I wouldn't even call anything above that an indie to me, especially with the technology we have today.
Yeah.
So this is an indie film, and that's one of the reasons I got involved in it.
Okay. No, that's good. I think that's always a really interesting thing to hear because, yeah, it is funny. You can watch a lot of indie films and suddenly you see someone, you'll be like, yo, how is that? How did they get to this? And it's always interesting to get those answers from people. Sometimes it was just like, hey, well, they knew this person, or it's just like
Right.
just they got the script to me and it just
Right.
talked to me. So I had a gap, so I did it. There's always these interesting things. And I just think, and what you said, like it keeps you connected. And I think that's definitely a thing because we see some actors, actresses, and as they go on, they're not really the characters in the films, right? They're just themselves, right? So you watch a film and you'd be like, oh, you know what I mean? That's Thingy being Thingy, right? But you know what I mean? I could say names, but I'm not gonna say names, right? But it's just you know what I mean? And like it brings people to the film for sure. But it's just like you remember those early days when they really got into character and be like, yo, I want to see that. And I think when you see people do indie films and do these other projects and really mix things up with the roles they take, you usually see them really getting into the roles and always following through and just investing themselves. And that's always just so intriguing. It's a great thing to see.
Well, in indie films, that's all you have. Not all you have, but that's the meat of what you have. That's why you're doing it, because you don't have special effects, you don't have money, you don't have CGI, you don't have, amazing locations and sets and all that stuff because you can't afford it. So all you have are the characters and the story. And hopefully you have a good director who is able to help navigate that without all these, big money project things that could enhance, and they do enhance things. But when you have a small film, you have to rely on the story and the acting and the directing solely, and not the flash. There's no flash usually in indie films. I'd be curious to ask Eugene why he came aboard. I mean, outside of me, I wonder why he.
Oh no, it was only because of you, because you asked. I mean, I'm just like Mike in that respect. Like I'll do shorts and I'll do indies. I'll do things where, if the story is interesting, I'm down. And when Mike asked me, and I know Mike, I've known Mike obviously for years, and for him to ask, I was like, this must be something he really wants to do, and he's really invested in. He really thinks he wants the right people for, and he thinks that I'm right for this. So, okay, I'll do it. And I did it sight unseen. I didn't see the script.
Okay.
I didn't see it because I trusted my friend. I was like, his taste is usually very strong, and he was right in the fact that it was a meaty, interesting idea. And the beautiful thing about it is it's an intimate thing. So we got to play with, other than monetary restrictions, there was no acting restrictions in terms of let's try to figure out who our characters are. Let's try to build upon them. And then we were stuck on a boat from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Right.
We couldn't go nowhere. There's no escape. They say, hey, you gotta do something right now. You do it now, because you're not getting off this boat till we dock at 4 a.m. So I was, we were crazy around that time, man. But it was fun to do with them.
It was very fun, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple of things I want to ask you now, right? So when you read the role, right? So Michael calls you up and he's like, yo, I want you to be in this film. Because you follow me around all the time, so you might as well invite
might as well just keep the trend going, right? Every decade. It's literally been almost every decade of my life I've done something with it. That's funny. It's actually the truth.
once you read the script, like what was it about the character that kind of really spoke to you?
I think it was the fact that Davis was because there's a lot of heaviness to this script. There's a lot of heaviness to what's going on, and I felt Davis was the light in terms of being the funny person, the person that is skeptical but funny skeptical, sort of like, man, this doesn't make any sense to me. And I usually like those characters because when those characters come into a thing, it kind of alleviates some of the tension,
right?
But also now he's invested in what happens in the script as well, because now what starts happening is now happening to him. And now it's always felt like this film was about belief. You know, it's about what you believe. And this kid and Davis is more about money and tech, and doesn't understand, like, I don't understand that stuff. I don't care. That's not my problem. But he starts to believe something else while this film goes on. And I thought that interested me.
Yeah, that was when I first started the film. I was like, oh, is this gonna be a Mulder and Scully situation? You know what I mean? I believe. I don't believe, right? Is it gonna be that? But it becomes so much more, right? It becomes that, you know what I mean? Like, what would you do when push comes to shove, right? When you say you're this person, but do you stay that person in the face of crazy? Right. And we see some people stand and fight and some people run. And so it was so interesting seeing what these characters do. And it's like, as you say, you were kind of the fun, jokey dude, but it wasn't like, you know, sometimes you watch those films and someone is the light relief, but it's so obvious, it's so false, but everything felt really natural with this, the developments of the characters and everything, and that's what made it so intriguing.
Good to hear.
But
that's very good to hear.
But I will say this, right? So Michael calls you up, he asks you to be in this film, and then you do something mad heinous. Like, what the fuck, son?
I mean, I don't even know what you're saying right now because I can't talk about anything. I don't know what you're speaking of. I was an angel in the film, in the film and outside the film, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Right. What was it like filming on a boat?
I hated it. Yeah. I can't swim, man. Let's be real. I can't swim. And that was the real thing that made me think about this when he said, he's like, hey man, I need you to do this. I'm like, well, all right, it's cool. It's on a boat. What? You know I don't swim, man. He was like, I got you. We gonna be okay. I won't want anything to happen to you. And I'm sitting there like, you can't help if something happens to that boat. And I thought we were gonna be shooting at docked. Like they didn't tell me you were going out on the water until I got on the boat. They're like, oh, anyway, we're taking off. I'm like, what do you mean we're taking off? This boat should be docked, right? Y'all.
Eugene is like we had him. He's like the B.A. Baracus on the A team. You know, so we had to go. Oh no, we're gonna be right here, dude. Yeah, here, eat this. You know, have him fall asleep for a minute and then take the boat out.
And you know what? It's not that far from the truth, to be honest. They distracted me.
You had to take pills and everything, right?
I did. I was like, they gave me stuff, and they would go, "It's gonna be okay." They distracted me with cameras. They were like, "Hey, man, look at this camera." I'm like, "Ooh, the boat is now taking off." What? So they got me on that one. It was fun. That's why I said it was fun. And Anthony was fun too, you know, because he made fun of me too.
Like that's interesting because I had a thought, that if you're filming, that possibly you do stay by the dock, right? But you actually go out into the water to kind of.
Yeah, we actually wanted to use the darkness of being out, so we had to go in the water because we had to shoot stuff on the boat, on an exterior of the boat, and not see the dock or see other boats, or
right.
because we're supposed to be way out in the middle of the ocean. The problem partly was that it was so dark that it's like we didn't want it to look like a super cheap thing where we're supposed to be out in the ocean, but we just have a black thing behind us, and we're just talking. But it was kind of like that because it was so dark, and it was very hard to have any kind of depth because in the background it was just pitch black. So there were times we had problems with that, but again, that's the beauty of indie filmmaking. When you go, okay, well, how do we deal with this? And you just have to find out a way to deal with that right on the spot and try to make something happen.
You just said something just now that made me realize that we didn't have to go out on the boat. We didn't have to go out there because we could have put a black backdrop up and the same thing would happen. See, now I'm mad. See, we could have saved some time and some money. Sorry,
yeah,
man.
but we had
other
shots where it became relevant.
It did become relevant. But it was I wasn't on the boat. Y'all gave me.
Right. I really hope, Michael, you messed with Eugene and gave him a copy of the script where he's in the cage, right? Because I you know what I mean? Just let him read that and be like, say what?
No. It would have been an automatic no for me, bro.
Over the side, and
I'd have been like, that's a negative. That's a negative. This is what's beautiful. This is the beautiful part about indie films. You could be like, we gotta do a rewrite right now. Right now, we gotta do a rewrite. So that's because the one thing about indie films is you can have a collaborative situation, and we did on this shoot because there were things that we were like, okay, well, what if let's flesh out this character, let's flesh out this character. So everybody had their moments.
Yeah, and
that's what also is a beautiful thing about indie films because you can have that moment, you can have that conversation, because indie films, you're not getting paid. So
no, you're not.
You're not getting paid. This is like community theater. You're doing this for the love of the acting. So,
yeah, I think coming to thinking about it, and I haven't seen the final, but I don't think it's in the film. But Summer and I had to get out on the dinghy, and we had a rope, but we were out in the middle of the water late at night. And we had wetsuits on and stuff, and we filmed. It was a cool idea. I'm pretty sure it was cut, but when you talk about like, we were nervous because we had seen some seals in the water and stuff. And it's pitch black, and our legs are actually pretty much in the water. And it was a good idea, but again, it was choppier than we thought, so it was hard to get the right shot and stuff like that. But that's part of it's just part of the joy of going for something and dealing with the problems that come from not having enough money to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Like, what is it like when you do, because you've both been in some big stuff, right? So going from these big productions, like Harder They Fall, which was, oh my gosh, right? So that over here, it opened up the BFI London Film Festival last year. And we were all sitting, like the press screening was in the Royal Albert Hall. No, sorry, the Royal Festival Hall. Right, so we go to the Royal Festival Hall 8 o'clock in the morning, and then like the music plays and it's vibrating, and it was such an incredible experience, man. And just to see all that talent on the screen, it was that film was superb. I will say that now. That film was superb.
Man, that film was okay. It would have been great if I was in it. I said all these people I knew. I was like, yo, I didn't get a call. That's the one time Mike Beach doesn't call.
James told me that he was gonna call you for part 2.
But it, like, yeah, that's what's gonna end up happening. Like, oh yeah, we need this guy to just gotta go die in the beginning of the film. So I was like, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. That's what I do. I die.
Hey, that's what happened to me.
I didn't even know he was in it. I'm turning the film on, and I was like, oh, this guy. Like, I didn't know he was in this.
Yeah, it's like, where was the call for that one, Mike?
Man, I ain't get that call. Actually, he did call me, but he was asking me a question when he was in New Mexico. But I didn't know that's what he was calling. He was just calling like, "Hey, brother, I gotta ask you a question." I was like, "All right, cool. What you doing?" "Oh man, I'm just down here doing something. I'll be back." "Oh, okay."
It's true.
Oh man. But like
Lies.
going from something like that to now an indie film, like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? What's the feeling? Because I imagine there's all these things that you learn in these big productions that you can bring to the table. But like sometimes is there that, you know, you read a script or something and be like, oh man, like this isn't as professional as what I'm used to, or I wish this was more like that, or like, yeah, what is it like going back and forward between these scales of production?
For me, it's exciting. I mean, I love it. I just did my first non-American production in France right before Christmas, and it was an Egyptian production actually, and it was completely different. You know, the way they shoot. You know, and not completely, but very different the way they shoot. But
Yeah.
the thing that always stays the same, especially from an actor's um, point of view, is that my job remains the same. I have to know my lines. I have to know what my character's intentions are, what the obstacles are, what he's trying to achieve, you know, and the things that are in his way, and do that to the best of my ability. Now, sometimes it's easier because the writing is better, or because the production is everything around the production is helping you be in that world, you know. And I think that's something that you do get when you're on a bigger production. But sometimes on a bigger production, they don't, you know, they miss some of the details because it's more about the flash, you know.
Right.
On the smaller productions, we don't have the flash. So the flash is not even an option, you know. So now what we have to worry about foremost is the story. Is this advancing the story? You know, the characters, you know, for me, it's a little more intense on the smaller productions because it so much more relies on you, you know. On the bigger productions, you know, the cars crashing in the back, and you know, so I don't have to excite the audience because the car crash is doing it. You know,
Yeah,
I don't have to, you know, stuff like with the small, like on this film, you know, we have some really, it's a great concept between religion and science, you know, but we don't have the ability to say, oh, well, we're going to show this, what might be a spacecraft coming. You know, we don't have that ability, so we have to do it among ourselves. You know, we have to make sure that the story is strong enough to withstand the things that we don't have.
You know, and it's funny to echo that. It's funny because he's right, and also it's, you know, the blockbuster didn't exist before Star Wars,
Jaws and Star Wars,
Jaws,
yeah,
and that.
that
So
77, I think, yeah.
yeah, so big productions back in the day used to tell stories. They used to tell stories, and
True.
that and it was not about the spectacle. It can be because Ben-Hur's a spectacle, and you know, and Ten Commandments and stuff like that. But most of the times, you know, Hitchcockian films are about the story and then the camera movements, but not about big budget stuff. So, and also you said something about professional versus, you know, unprofessional. I got to tell you, I've been on some unprofessional big pieces, and I've been
That's
on
true.
some professional smaller pieces that you wouldn't
Mm.
expect would have the ability to do that. So the difference is exactly what Mike said. And you know, Mike told me something years ago when I was a kid that I hold to today. This is why I believe in doing independence and shorts. Mike said, you know, he said the thing that because I asked him, I said, what do you think is the key to success in this business? He said longevity. He said, you could be a star. He said, but it's about the stories and the things you want to do. And most of the time, that's what gets you longevity is focusing on the story and focusing on the character and building through there and taking certain jobs that you wouldn't take. Because stars will take just big jobs.
Yeah.
And they won't care about the smaller stuff. And so I'm always thankful for him for that, because that was like one of the things that sticks to me all the time about it. Because, you know, yeah, could we go out for these bigger projects and be stars and get money? Yes, of course. But you also want to continue to be an actor.
Mm.
And that's why doing these smaller projects and doing these more the Hitchcockian, you know, stories from back in the day that we've taken for granted now as we've come to the blockbuster era of everything. You know, I just think it's still important.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And when you pick roles, right? Because I think there is that issue, and especially in the past, right, with black actors, that you only saw them cast in certain roles.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it would be like, oh, the robber. Oh, like the
Right.
hood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, the barbecue scene. Right? And it was a certain sort of roles, but the big ones always only went to a certain small group of people.
Right.
But looking at both of your back catalogs, you've really diversified yourselves, you know, playing different sort of roles. I mean, Michael, you've been a philanderer a few times. You know what I mean?
More than a few times.
Like, I can't believe what you did to Miss Bassett in Waiting to Exhale, and then you did it again in Soul Food.
I gave you the money. Now I gave you the house. Now sell it. Like,
yeah.
He's got quotables. He's the most quotable cat in the history of television.
Yeah.
But
no,
like,
I mean, but I think the idea of sticking around, you know, and Gene, I mean, I'm much older than him, but he started when I started. He was a child actor, so he's been around as long as I've been around. And the idea is to stay relevant. And how do you do that? I mean, first of all, it is, a lot of it is not up to you.
yeah.
It's just fate, how things happen. But one of the things that, first of all, your work has to be strong. You have to make sure that you're always trying to get better. You're always trying to figure stuff out. You always try. But beyond that, how you are on set, which people don't understand, is just as relevant. How you treat people, how if you disrespect people, if you're an asshole, excuse my French, on set, that is part of your reputation. And you never know, which I always say is, it doesn't matter what project you're on, you have no idea what that director or producer is going to be doing in the future. And the future could be 10 years from now, or it could be a year from now, or 2 years from now. And nobody wants to work with somebody who is just unhappy on the set, because that permeates, especially if you're one of the main actors. It just, like, you come to set and the crew is just deflated, because what are we going to have to deal with today? And so I think a lot of that, outside of the things that we don't control, the things that we do control are very important, that that we be positive, that we understand how fortunate that we are, to be doing what we're doing and to make a living at it. And I think that's one of the things for me that, and I still love it, is because I think I just take a positive note with me in everything I do, no matter how difficult it is. You know, it's difficult for everyone. I'm just one of the people here, and part of my job is to make this experience as pleasant as possible.
Right. 100%. I mean, it's 100% correct. I mean, because there's nothing worse than when you come on a show and the number one on the call sheet usually sets the table of how everybody's going to be.
Mhm,
And when
mhm.
you go on a set and it's miserable, most likely the number one is the problem. And
Right.
Yeah,
and it permeates, man. It really does.
yeah,
You have a terrible number one, the show's usually going to be miserable. And it could be a success. It could be a hit.
right,
But it
right,
doesn't mean everybody's happy.
Yeah.
right. And it doesn't have to be just the number one. It could be two, three,
True.
doesn't matter, you know, but obviously the one is the top dog. But you can have a great one and you can have a terrible two or three, you know, and what we're talking about is the pecking order on the call sheet, you know, the number one actor, number two actor,
Right.
number three actor. Not about their talent or anything like that, but just how they're placed on the call sheet.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the amount of times you hear sometimes about films or shows that flopped, and it'd be like, oh, because the problems behind the scenes were crazy. But then sometimes even on the big shows, right, successful, we were around for years, and it'd be
Mhm.
like, oh, behind this, everyone hated each other, it's
Yep,
miserable,
yep, yep.
and it's always just like fascinating because you're just like, wait, how does that happen, right? How is that allowed to continue for that long? Or how does that put, because it's funny, sometimes you see people that on one film they're terrible and they never seem to get cast after that,
Right.
but then other people are notorious for it but still keep on getting cast, and it's
That's
True.
because they sell they sell a film.
Right,
It's
right,
yeah.
usually that person sells a film or their box office over internationally.
right.
They may not be box office in in the States or something like
Mm,
that, but and sometimes that person doesn't start that way. They
yeah.
become miserable.
Right, right,
And then but they're a star now, so they got to keep going.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's a lot, and that does happen. There's no question. It usually is the producers. I mean, my opinion. It's usually the producers and the studio's fault for allowing the actor to push as push as far as they push, and they go, "Oh, well, I can get away with all kind of stuff," and they just keep
Yeah.
doing it, and that's and the studio's like, "Oh, it's a hit," you know, just then they're telling the producers on set, you know, just work it out, you know, give him or her what they want, you know, but we're making too much money, so just let it
And
go.
that's the whole point.
And that's
Mm,
the whole point. But to be honest, there are a lot of people who are not famous or bringing all the money or the box office who who are unhappy, and it's like, dude, you're not you're not
I
the
know.
man. So
I know.
nobody has to hire you,
yeah.
So and that's most actors. I mean, not most actors are that unhappy, but most actors are unknown or
Mm,
not. They don't bring in box office,
Right.
like I don't bring in box office. So I can't act any way I want and then go, well, why am I not being hired? It's like, no, because you're a dick, and and we don't need you.
Right.
I'm used to enhance the story and to work with the number one or two or whatever, but I'm not used because I'm going to bring butts into the seats. So there, and most actors are like
I
me.
don't know.
you know
Yeah,
there's
but I don't know
very
about
few
that.
actors
I
that,
don't know about that.
well, in general, I mean,
Yeah.
in general, for a big project. But my point being is that there are many more actors who don't command that kind of money and attention and fame, that don't have the ability to act any way they want and not have any repercussions. I mean,
mm,
we know even some major stars that think they can act how they want, and their repercussions for those people as well is just a lot less, a lot less damaging than it is to somebody who's not famous.
Very true.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we kind of see that in many different things, whether it be sport, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just like
Right.
across the table, you have the people at that higher echelon that will do crazy things.
Right.
And then other people who sometimes that oh, they've seen that person get away with it, but they don't understand they're not the box office draw. So it's just like they do something and suddenly they're cut and they're like, wait, what? But he got away with it. Like,
Yeah.
He said, but he's got talent and he's putting butts in the seat, guy.
He just had $1 billion movie that that came out.
Right.
Oh man. Yo, when you read scripts like this, right? And because you've all been in very big films. You know what I mean? Like I also when Bill Street, I get names
If
mixed
Bill
up.
Street Could Talk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bill Street,
Yeah.
That's such a good film, man. Like again, that played at the London Film Festival, right? I took my friend to see that, and man, we were blown away. It was such a good film. But you're in these big films, right? When you read the script, like how can you sense, like from your experience, can you sense that, oh, I feel this is gonna be something? Or is it just I believe it could be, but we'll see.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And and I never make a decision based on that, because then I would probably not work that much, I mean, I have no idea. There's times you do big projects that you think, oh, this is gonna be big, and then it just doesn't, nobody ever sees it. And then you do a small film and it just blows up, or even if it doesn't blow up, it does a lot for your career, because the character and the writing and the quality of it, and people say, oh, I want to work with that guy because he was a part of this or that, and so I always, like, business wise, I don't even, when I finish a film, or a TV show, I usually just forget, I'm on to the next one.
Yeah.
And I don't think about what it could do for me or how big it could be. I mean, obviously that runs through your head at different points, but I spend no time on it because it's actually not relevant to what I do, and it's also, I don't think it's healthy. If I'm sitting around expecting or hoping something to be a big hit, and I'm putting all my energy into it and hope and dream, and then it flops, then what good have I done myself? I just need to put my energy onto the next job, and hopefully the combination of all this work is what leads to more work and more work, and that's ultimately, for me, after 36 years, hopefully I have another 25 or however long I'm around and can remember lines. Then I can just keep working. That's all I want to do. I just want to keep working.
Which goes back to what I said he told me long years ago. He said longevity. Yeah. Longevity. That's how you build longevity. You build a body of work.
That's right.
Build a body of work, and you say, that was okay. I'm glad I did that. What's the next one?
Right.
Like you both been in some just incredible shows, incredible films, like franchises, just across the board. You know what I mean? Like you both done the comic book thing, right? Aquaman. Jeff, Jeff Morales, right? You voice Miles is, Pop,
voice
like,
Miles' dad for kids.
Yeah, dude. How great is that, right? So
it's fun.
Is there, like, as I said, look, your careers up to this point have been incredible, right? But you both really seem like you've got that hunger, like you're not hanging up the cows anytime soon. But are there things that you'd be like, that you're still like, oh, I want to achieve that, I want to do that before all is said and done?
Gene?
I mean, of course. I mean, of course. I mean, it's probably things on my list that I haven't thought about of recent, but you know, I might got to do something I wanted to do. I mean, I wanted to do it. I wanted to be in like a comic movie as a character. Like, I mean, and also one of my greatest things I've always wanted to do, but I think I'm getting a little long in the tooth now. So I wanted to do a biopic, and I wanted to do Prince. That might be too long on the tooth now for me, but you know, I think for me, it's about I don't know if I've had my. I'm always in my mind going, I haven't done my best work yet.
Right.
So if anything, it's always that's my next thought is that
Right.
I haven't done my best work yet, and that's probably always going to be my thought process because I think that's what's going to keep me moving.
Yeah.
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 And for me, I agree with that, but it's like I'm just ready for the next thing, you know.
Right.
I what I love about what we do is that you have no idea what's coming around the corner. You know what I mean? You could be chilling out doing nothing, and then the next day you get a phone call. So and so's interested in you for this, or you know whatever, blah blah blah, and they're gonna shoot in you know in Africa somewhere or Australia or wherever. You know, you have no idea in Hawaii, and that's the that's the joy. You go, oh well, who's you don't know what actor you're gonna be working with, what director you're gonna be working with, writer. It's just that's exciting to me, and that's why I don't know what's coming. I don't have anything in mind of what I want to do. I just want to keep being able to do it.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny when you hear from certain people like Michael Jordan, right? The way he talks, he used to talk about the game, right? And it was that mentality of like, I haven't had my best game yet, right? There's still more to do. On to the next game. That was that one, on to the next one, right? And I think it's that certain mentality that you see that you understand the drive behind people, and you can see how they've continued, how they maintain that high quality in everything they're doing. You know,
Right.
I think that's interesting to hear.
Well, I mean, you have to look at it as, somebody asked me who you compete against. I'm like, I compete against myself. If I keep thinking about this guy, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm always trying to improve. I'm always trying to become better than I was the last time. So I developed sort of the way that Mike felt about it, in which was like, that performance is cool, but when I see it, I go, man, I could have done better. Because now I do. Now I can do better because I've learned something on that, and now I'm on to the next one. And so it's for me, it's like sports. And that's how Jordan thought. Jordan was always like, he dropped 50, and he was like, yeah, but I didn't do this.
Yeah.
I'll do that next game.
Right.
And I think that's how you build a legacy and a career. So that's how my mind works.
Yeah. There's a couple of things I want to ask you before I let you both go, and I appreciate you giving me your time. I really do. This is a very fascinating conversation, right? So thank you. But how do you when you come onto a film like this film, right?
Immanence.
Yeah, that's the one. Right? there's a certain rapport between the characters. As I said, it makes sense when you watch it. You understand. Yeah, no, I feel that person would do that. I understand that, right? But how do you build that? Is there bonding exercises that you always do? Do you like to go out for dinner with the rest of the cast? How do you kind of build that connection?
I mean, it happens in a variety of ways. I mean, unfortunately, doing film and TV nowadays, especially at the beginning of the production, we don't usually have rehearsals or time to get to know anyone if you don't already know them. Because when you've been around for a long time, there's never a job where you don't know people. But originally, when you're kind of learning and growing and figuring out the person that you're working with as it's happening, you know, and as you're on camera. And hopefully, again, that's what I was saying about hopefully the writing is strong enough so that if I'm following what I'm supposed to be doing and the other actor or actress or whatever is following what they're supposed to be doing, and you know, you assume we're hired for our talent, that we can find things together, and with a good director, they can help mold it and they can help turn it up or turn it down, or you know, go left or go right, you know. So it's a learning process, and it's one of the things that makes what we do exciting. It's not math. You know, it's not like, oh, when you come to the set, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and then you're going to feel this and you're going to feel that. It's not that. Is not how it works. It's always a learning process, no matter how long you've been around. How does this person work? How does this person like to shoot? You know, is this director a yeller? Is this director somebody that doesn't really give notes? Is this director that somebody that gives too many notes? You know, is my actress, is she gonna be like this? Is she? So it's all like, that's why you have to be so prepared, because you don't know what's gonna happen or what you're gonna get when you come to set. You know, so and that's sometimes it's troubling, but it's always the, you know, excitement of the newness of of you know, working your way through whatever situation you happen to be in right now in this particular production.
Yep.
And I love that.
And when you, like, with characters, you know what I mean? Because with this character, like, you know, Jonah, he's very, you know, he's got this belief, you know what I mean? And Davis, he's like the complete opposite. Like, so when you read these sort of characters, how, like, is there a certain thing that you might do to kind of like, okay, so he thinks like this character is this way, let me watch this or try this to kind of really get myself into that zone, into that mindset, if you're not kind of on a similar path yourselves?
You know, sometimes I think you find it in the moments. You find it in the moments. For me, it's finding it in the moments, unless it's like a character that is, you know, about, you know, somebody who's real, that you have to play that character.
Yeah.
But usually it's wonderful, especially in an independent, where the director and everybody else, we have license to our characters, and you try to make that character your own. And once it's psychology too. Once you know what that person's psychology is, you try to play that to the best of your ability. And then at some point you might go, he wouldn't do that. That doesn't logically make sense for this particular guy. And then you try to talk to them and see if you can change it. And if they're not, depending on the director or the writer, they may not agree with you. And then you have to go, okay, well, then I just have to do it to the best of my ability to you know, get that dude where he is in this particular moment. So it's a dance. It's a dance. It's you have to have great partners like Mike, Anthony, and some of them. You know, you have to have people that are willing to play with you. That's for me. That's for me.
And I agree, but for me, like the Bible is the script, you know, and that's where all the information is. You know what I mean? My job is not to fight the script. My job is to enhance it as much as I can. And my job is not to go, oh well, yeah, they wrote it like this, but I don't want to do that. You know, now I mean, sometimes you come into conflict with what you think and what the, you know, the writers may think, but my job is to enhance what was written. And that's my to me, my number one duty. And sometimes, you know, I have to, there are problems are created, and then I have to figure out how to deal with that. But but it all comes from there. That's the mother lode. Like I'm not an actor that does a lot of research on unless research is definitely required. But usually I'm playing a person who happens to be something, and what that person does for a living is usually a plot thing, but who they are as people is much more of of a personal thing. They happen to be a doctor, but the whole point is that their wife is cheating on them, or they're cheating on their wife, and that isn't relevant, the fact that they're a doctor. But there'll be a time in the story where the fact that he's a doctor is relevant. Maybe something happens and he can help save himself or somebody else. But in general, what's relevant is what's that character is going through in their personal lives. And whenever what they do can add or shed some light into how they may respond, then yeah, you have to deal with that. But in general, my main job is what is this person going through in their personal lives, because that's why we're watching a movie or a TV show. We're not watching somebody make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We're watching people in
Less is
their
good.
yeah, right. But we're watching people usually in the most heightened moments of their lives.
Right.
And how they respond to that is what we want to see. And that's where as an actor, the choices, not what you want and not what your objectives, not what your obstacles are, but how you go about getting what you want. That's where the meat of acting comes in. That's where that's why the way Eugene would do it and the way I would do it is different. Because it's about those actions, and how you deal with that. And that's what's exciting about, again, that's what's exciting about what we do, the being there and making those decisions. The work you do at home is so relevant, but then when you get on the set, you have to adapt to whatever's going on, or to whatever note that's given to you, or to whatever obstacle in terms of, no, we can't do that because we don't have that. So we have to, change that. And that's the joy of, of that Eugene talking about earlier, the moment to moment. You go, okay, well, things have changed. So I now have to deal with what's in front of me, and not what I prepared for.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful part, is that I think the best ability that actor can have is adaptability.
Yes.
Because a lot of actors can adapt. And you have to be able to adapt almost in the moment. You have to. And if you can't, they will replace you.
Yes.
They will replace you. They're like, you can't do it. All right, you gotta go. So you gotta know how to adapt.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some big cases of that. Like Michael J. Fox wasn't the original Marty McFly.
Yeah, that was Eric Stoltz.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, I forget my man's name, but Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, it was meant to be Robert Townsend originally.
Right. Oh, there's a ton. You could go to a gazillion.
You can go to a list about who was supposed to be who. And 8 Mile, it was supposed to be Giovanni Ribisi.
Oh,
for my character.
I did not know that.
He was the original concept for that role.
Right.
And he's an amazing actor. It was just that we're different, and they wanted a different. And a lot of times, it's not about the talent of the other actor; it's the fact or the adaptability. It's that they just didn't fit what they thought of, or somebody came in and gave them a new idea, and they were like, "Oh, I think we want to go with this guy. This fits what we want to do more." Because Back to the Future with Eric Stoltz probably would have been good, but would it have been this?
Exactly.
Right.
It's like adding a different ingredient to a meal. It completely changes it. It's still tasty as hell, but it's a different it's a different flavor.
Different thing. Could you imagine with Ted Lasso? It's all about cast too. We're just talking about chemistry. Look at Ted Lasso. I don't know what that show would be if those actors weren't together.
Right.
Yeah.
The chemistry of that show, you know, when you find shows where the actors are perfectly placed and everything, I mean, that's a dream to get those kind of, that kind of synergy. Doesn't always happen. It's lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you take the UK office, you know, and then you take the American office, and the first few scripts of the American office were the same as the UK office.
I know,
completely different though, a completely different vibe, but still great. And it's interesting when you see that, you know what I mean? Those different takes on a certain situation played in those different ways.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Because everybody's going to react differently because we're all different. Nobody's the same. And that's what is so, like Mike was saying, what's so beautiful about being an actor and playing opposite of another actor is you're not going to get the same view of the same situation. You won't.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, I think I have to do another interview at 12, and I think it's 12. Is that right? Is AJ listening or
I don't know. Is AJ wait a minute, somebody's in the chat.
AJ's I'm gonna let you guys go because I've kept you for a long
appreciate it, brother. Yeah, it's been great. No,
thank you very much.
It was a good talk, man. Definitely.
Yeah, I really appreciate this. And people, the film drops on the 4th of February, so make sure you check it out because these two gentlemen kill it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
Where did you get your information? YouTube. Man, I love that.
That's a good line. I love that line.
Thank you very much, man. I
all right, my brother.
All right.
We'll
take it easy,
talk
man.
to you later.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Gene.